Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. I did a short a while back on how to stretch a can of chili and make it last longer and go further. And I had somebody ask me on that particular short if I could share other ways to stretch items in your pantry, make your prepper pantry go further. And I automatically thought of Mom's hash when they asked that question. So I'm going to do a video on Mom's hash for you guys here. Now, when I was a kid, Mom would typically get a quarter of beef twice a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And the quarter of beef, she would typically have ground beef made up. She would want the soup bones, and she would want roasts, because those are the three things that she could utilize and get the most out of. And I learned this just by watching her and Grandma cook over the years. But she would typically have the roast cut maybe about 4 pounds. And a 4-pound roast, Mom could usually make that last for 3 meals. She would make 3 good meals out of that 4-pound roast for us. And of course, we would have the roast with the potatoes and the carrots, like pot roast, like on a Sunday. And then on Monday and Tuesday, when the week was starting out, she would typically make something like beef noodle soup, but then she would make hash. And hash is still to this day is one of my favorite things that Mom made. But Mom had a real specific way that she made her hash. She would actually, instead of cutting up the meat and mixing it in with the potatoes, she would actually grind it. And she would grind the leftover pot roast. And then she would add an onion into the grinder as well, so she wouldn't, of course, have to dirty another dish or anything cutting up the onion. And then typically we would have a bowl of cooked potatoes already in the refrigerator, because that was another thing that they would make a large amount ahead of time. Then they would have that for fried potatoes, stuff like this hash, stuff that they would add into soup, potato salad. There was always typically a bowl of cooked potatoes in the refrigerator as well. Then Mom would take that ground up leftover pot roast with the onion in it, put it with a little bit of bacon grease in the cast iron, and then she would add those cooked potatoes as well. And because everything was already cooked, it didn't take that long to make that stuff. And because everything was more or less already seasoned, you had the bacon grease in there, you had the pot roast that was already seasoned when it was cooked. There was very little seasoning that was added, maybe a little bit of salt and pepper, but basically that was it. And the flavors basically spoke for themselves. But you could do this exact same recipe of Mom's with not just leftovers, but you could also do it with canned stuff out of your prepper pantry. You could, grind up commercially canned beef. You could certainly do it with your own home canned beef. Home canned potatoes are like a perfect match for this. You would just drain this, add these in, and even the onions, dehydrated onions, you could reconstitute in some warm water, and you could dice that up, or you could grind them along in with the beef. So, Mom always planned meals that way, and she would make the hash. Sometimes she would even make it with pork roast if that's what we had, but typically it was beef. But she was just a master of making meals stretch furthest, just like a ham. A ham was another perfect example. You'd have ham one day, you'd have ham and scalloped potatoes the next day, and then the ham bone would be cooked for bean soup, on the third day. So that stuff was always made to last, and you literally got as much out of it as you possibly could. Got a little fire going out here on the fire pit, and I actually ground some leftover beef roast that we had here, and I'm going to put that in the cast iron, and I'm going to show you guys how to cook that. You guys stick around. Here is what the ground up beef roast and onions and diced cooked potatoes looks like. You can kind of see the texture there. And basically I just started this out with probably a good 4 tablespoons of bacon grease, because this is actually quite a bit to start with. Heated up the cast iron. Of course, you did it in the stove in the house. You just heat the cast iron up good, or get the cast iron going on the fire pit. Add your ingredients into the hot pan, and you just let it go. You just watch the heat so it doesn't burn, but you want to kind of get it a little bit crispy. So anyway, we're just going to let this go for a little bit, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when we're done. After the hash cooked for about good 5 minutes on one side, because you want the nice brown bits. You flip everything over in the pan, and you can see here all the little brown bits that were on the bottom of the pan. That's where all your flavor is. That is what you want on top. And after you flip it, if you're feeling fancy like I am here today, you can throw an egg in the center. Eggs are something we always had out on the farm, and it wasn't uncommon for Mom to throw a couple of eggs in with the hash when she was cooking it. Anyway, this is just about done here. Oh, and another thing is you always want to throw a cover over top to let your egg cook through. But this is what it looks here. It's just about done. We're going to give it another minute or so, and we're going to take this off. We're going to let it cool down a little bit, and we're going to try some. All right, guys, you can see here, this is what it looks like. Cooled down enough where we could get it out of the cast iron. And now I'm going to give it a little try here. And another thing with this, Mom would typically serve this with our either homemade chili sauce or our homemade ketchup. So if you wanted a little condiment on there, that's what you would have with this. But anyway, we're going to give this a little try here. See if I can get the same flavor that Mom got all those years ago. It's got a fine texture, but that's actually really good. It really picked up the flavor from the bacon grease that we had in there. And again, you can add salt and pepper on this, but most of the ingredients were already seasoned before you cooked them. And because it doesn't take that long to cook, it's really a quick meal that you don't have to add a lot to. And like I said, Mom would always serve this with either her homemade chili sauce or her homemade ketchup. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys here how to stretch some of the items in your prepping pantry, or use your leftovers to make money and meals go further nowadays. I'll put a link in the description for all the videos that are kind of pertinent to this video here, the canned potatoes, the homemade ketchup, and that kind of stuff, so you guys can look back through my library there and find out how to make some of these things for yourself. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment here, just showing you guys how to get the most out of your prepping pantry. You guys have a good one.